All right, well, a little review. We're in 2 Samuel chapter 15, if you want to turn there. 2 Samuel 15. Just a little review. We're studying the episode in David's life where Absalom attempts to overthrow his reign. It's a revolution, a coup d'etat. And we're studying this revolution, Absalom's revolution, in order to better understand the sin of revolution in our own hearts, which of course it's certainly there, but also to understand it in the life of our country and in your family and in the church as well, so that you don't participate in it and you don't get swept up in it. Make sense? The sin of revolution, identifying it and avoiding it and repenting of it where necessary. And in other words, we want to Absalom-proof our life. That's the goal for this whole series, that you would be Absalom-proofed, because Absaloms lead many people astray into bad decisions and into sinful decisions and even into apostasy. All right, well, we will review. Let's do 2 Samuel 15, starting in verse 1. A little review. We left off last week looking at the red flags of revolution, and we're going to look at that again because we kind of rushed through it, and this is something that is truly worthy of meditating on. And just make sure that you don't find these red flags in your life or in the life of those people that you really, really want to like you. All right, 2 Samuel 15, verse 1. And you have to, after I'm done reading it, you're going to tell me all the red flags of revolution. After this, Absalom got himself a chariot and horses and 50 men to run before him. And Absalom used to rise early and stand beside the way of the gate. And when any man had a dispute to come before the king for judgment, Absalom would call to him and say, "From what city are you?" And when he said, "Your servant is of such and such a tribe in Israel," Absalom would say to him, "See, your claims are good and right, but there is no man designated by that king to hear you." Then Absalom would say, "Oh, that I were judge in this land. Then every man with a dispute or cause might come to me, every single one of you, even the little guy, and I would give him justice. And whenever a man came near to pay homage to him, he would put out his hand and take hold of him and kiss him. Thus Absalom did to all of Israel who came to the king for judgment. So Absalom stole the hearts of the men of Israel." All right. What do you think? What do you think? Red flags of revolution. I'll start. He's got cheerleaders that he pays. That's right. He buys all of his friends. That's weird. I think the thing that I noticed that jumps out at me is if we were just watching this situation in real life, we might not be aware of what's going on at all. We know what's going on because we know the whole story. And God has given us the motives of Absalom's heart, and we know what Absalom was like before, and we know what Absalom is like afterward, and we know how God eventually hangs him in a tree by his religious hair. So we know the whole story. We have insight because God gives that to us. But if we were just simple people coming to town with a concern or a criticism or a need for justice, would we be able to recognize the revolution and the inevitable civil war that is going to emerge from this seemingly loving, caring, servant's heart right here? I mean, it seems like someone who really cares for the people. He loves the people. If you were to come into town, he would say, if only the king had appointed someone for that. But, I'll try to talk to him, but he's probably really busy right now with his rich friends. And honestly, if I were king, I would never want something like that. But if I were king, God forbid, but there would be justice in this land. Yeah. And you're like, wow, you see, it's so very subtle, so very crafty. If anyone were to say, I'm not so sure about that guy. Hey, let's give people the benefit of the doubt. Let's not speak negative about people. It would be just very hard to deal with this. I think most people would think this is a good guy, right? And I mean, he really goes out of his way to seem like a good guy. he's bowing his head. He's so humble, and he's offering kisses to these peasants that come in. And he has the long religious hair. Remember we talked about that last week. Wow. I mean, it's just, he's a snake in the grass, though. That's what the devil is. The devil is sneaky. He is an angel of light. He doesn't come to us with a pitchfork and horns. He comes to us bowing and lowly and offering us a solution to all of our problems. If only we would worship him. If only we would make him king. All right, can you see any other signs? Anything else? What's he want? What's he driven by? I'm sorry? Greed. Yes, greed for power, though, right? Greed for praise and power. For gain. He really is driven, though. He's not lazy. He wakes up early in the morning. He works hard. He is motivated. He's motivated. He wants to be king. That's right. Anything else? Yeah, he is clearly filled with pride, having this PR firm singing his praises everywhere he goes. I'm sorry? Yeah, his agenda is the removal of David. Yeah, the decreasing of David. For people who have the Absalom spirit, they can't imagine there being enough to go around. Like, for you to win is for them to lose. For them, the pie is a closed system, and whatever you have, they don't get to have. They can't imagine that God has enough grace for all of us and that we all have unique roles. That's good. Anything? Right, yes, he goes to the gate and he becomes the complaint department for the kingdom. He is looking, he's on the hunt, he's trolling for hurts. Right? His ears are attuned to anyone who might have a beef or who might have a concern, who might have been, mistreated. And he goes to them and he opens his heart to them and he offers solutions. Right? Oh, if only, if only I were king, this would be solved. So if the thing is, real servant leaders, people who really do love like Jesus loves, if they come into contact with a hurt or an offense or an injustice, what do they do with that hurt? What do they want to do with it? You come into contact with a hurt, and you're a Christian, and you want to do the right thing. I'm sorry, what? You might remind them of that Jesus is the solution. What else? You might encourage them, right? You might actually try to help them with the problem. You see, he's not bringing the people to someone who can help, which would be David. David is completely clueless as to the problem at all. He makes sure that David doesn't know the concern, and he nurses the concern, and he exploits the concern. It's like he's playing the part of the serpent in the garden, saying, "Is this?" Did God really say? It's exactly. He is the devil. He's Judas. He's Satan. He is a traitor. That's exactly right. But for him, the hurts and the concerns and the criticisms and the injustices and the weaknesses of the kingdom are not callings for him to serve and to meet needs. They are opportunities for him to club David. You see what I mean? It's not what we might think of as God saying, hey, there's a need in the kingdom. Let's step up. Let's pull together. No, it's the devil saying, if you were in charge, there wouldn't be this problem. Use this criticism as a tool to usurp authority. Now, who uses sins and weaknesses not to solve, not to add grace to, but uses them to accuse and to condemn and to dethrone? Politicians, the devil. That's very good. All right? Yeah, he's looking to capitalize on hurts and offenses. That's right. And he positions himself to be in a place where he can get all of them, He's making calls, right? He's hobnobbing, he's concerned, but he's basically gathering ammo in his war against David's authority and God's authority. Good. All right. This brings us to a good application. I got a couple of applications here. If you're in the office, who here works in an office with a bunch of employees? Aaron does. How many people are in the office? Six to 10, and the part-time workers, and and spouses of workers, right? You got a little bit of a community there. Ben, you've got how many people in your community, your office? A dozen or so. Anybody else? Pastor Scott and I have. There's quite a few people wandering around here. Yeah. Anybody else? Brody, do you have a like a community at your work, or you don't work alone all the time, do you? Just you and one other guy. Okay, interesting. So, but if you're in a situation like that, and a hurt is communicated, all right, or an offense, or a criticism, or a concern, you have to be wise enough to realize, okay, first of all, this concern that the person is communicating is implicitly condemning the boss. So a concern or a criticism that someone wants to serve and wants to solve is usually spoken of in a covenantal way, in a communal way, like we this or our this, I wish we could get better, I'm going to be doing these things. But when a criticism or a concern is spoken of in a condemning, accusatory, satanic way, that's being used as a weapon of revolution, it's always, and you can tell from the conversation, it's always a weapon that runs up the hierarchy. You understand what I mean? It's a weapon that runs up the hierarchy. And so if Brody, if you're riding along in the truck and the guy's like, man, I think I'd like to be making more money. I wish I could make more money, so that's why I've been showing up for work on time, and I've been, trying to be submissive at work and dressing sharp and looking good and making sure I'm good with the customers because, I got a family to feed. I want to make more money. Okay, well, that's good, right? But if he's like, you know what, I would love to make more money, but, that boss, it's like, man, he got a new truck the other day. It's like every time I turn around, he's got a new truck, right? I wonder what the process around here for, figuring out salaries is. That comment right there is basically human. No, but like how many of us have heard comments like that? It's just ubiquitous. It's like just the air we breathe. And none of us would normally think anything of that at all. We would just laugh it off, yeah, whatever. But that is the Absalom spirit. That is the Absalom spirit. It's using criticism and hurts as a tool of usurpation and of revolution. See what I mean? And it reveals a heart that doesn't trust God or trust God's plan for life. It doesn't love. It doesn't submit. It's not loyal. And loyalty is one of the long lost virtues of the Christian faith. I mean, what is covenantal love? The best word for it in English is loyalty. It's loyalty. I mean, your grandparents, my grandparents, their approach to supporting other people and standing up for people, it really was different. It really was different. There were certain people in my grandfather's life that you could not ever say anything about in front of him. And you honestly, you might be surprised. You might say something about a neighbor and find yourself getting like strongly rebuked. There's just a much more of a loyal spirit. But these days, people really it's all about the self. They lack covenantal loyalty. And not only do we lack covenantal loyalty, we lack the courage to push back to someone like that and say, hey, you shouldn't do that. Like, don't think that way and act that way. It's going to ruin your life. It's going to make you bitter. It's going to poison you. Eventually, the boss is going to sense it, and he's going to marginalize you and fire you. And the opposite's going to happen to you. Like, setting traps is not how to gain success in this world. And so to have the courage to help people not do that, but also have the wisdom to be able to notice it. But it's just so common. It really is so common, right? I really think it's more common than we realize. So mind your own business is a good policy, right? It's a good policy. Mind your own business, right? And if there is a need and a criticism, that might be a calling for you to help, but it's not a club or a 2x4 that you should use against the people that God has put over you. Amen? All right, Brother Henry.
That's something that really begins in the home. It's teaching to be enduring, loving, giving. That should be taught in the home.
Yes, sir.
I think it's a lost thing in most families today. They're not taught to go to work and put out your best effort.
Right. They're taught rather to rise up in revolution against the man. Because rebellion is how to get ahead. Burn down the sheriff's station. That's how we can rise up and take our stand. But that is the revolutionary spirit. Our whole political system is absorbed in the revolutionary spirit, and Marxism is the revolutionary spirit. And yes, in the children's home, and moms and dad, be careful when the kid talks to you about the other spouse. Don't let them do that to you. Like, don't let them put a wedge between the husband and the wife. You understand what I mean? The kid doesn't even necessarily realize what they're doing. But what they're doing is going to be really bad for them if they do that. You understand what I mean? Mom, dad's this and dad's that. You always say yes, and dad always says no. Yeah, I'm the nice one, huh? Okay, Absalom. All right. Yeah. Your middle name's not Absalom, right? I do always say yes. So. All right. Look at 2 Thessalonians chapter 3, verses 11 and 12. For we hear that there are some which walk among you disorderly, working not at all, but are busybodies. Right? Now them that are such we command and exhort by our Lord Jesus Christ, and with quietness they work and eat their own bread. So what is it that we should do? We should help one another who are they don't have enough to do, and instead they spend their times worrying about other people's problems and meddling in people's problems. A busybody, a meddler, a muckrake, a strife stirrer. That person has to be rebuked and told to work in quietness, live a quiet life. That doesn't mean not talking. It means not stirring stuff up. Like a quiet, calm lake, right? That's how you want your life to be, peaceful and tranquil in a quiet, calm life. Sure, there's going to be things that emerge and there has to be fights and battles. But if you're bored, don't spend your time making up problems for everyone to fight about, right? Let things be calm, live a quiet life. Don't spend your time stirring stuff up by wondering, oh, who said what? He said, she said, this and that. Oh, now I'm offended, right? Stay off that drama. That's right. And if you find yourself always positioning yourself in the gate to hear other people's concerns as their little savior, repent of your messianic complex. You can't fix people. And realize that what you're trying to do is satanic, and instead help that person to see what they're actually doing, which is demeaning and busting the people that are over them, their husband or their boss or their pastors or their friends, and help them to actually deal with their problems correctly. Amen? Now, why doesn't David just, deal with the criticisms? Right? Hey, we can all learn from our critics, right? Even if their motives are bad, you can still learn something from them. Why doesn't David just deal with the problems? Well, one, he doesn't know about the problems. Absalom is making sure that David's the last to know. Secondly, in an environment like this, Absaloms are going to turn molehills into mountains because it serves their particular purposes. What he needs is for every concern to be blown up to level 10 so that he can be justified even more in pushing back against David's authority. And anyone who's been in this particular position before, by experience, if David were to deal with one particular concern, I promise you, the situation wouldn't stop there. It's like whack-a-mole. Do y'all remember that game, whack-a-mole, in the arcades? You hit that mole, pump, another one pops up. I promise you, as soon as David deals with one problem, boom, oh, but it's how David did it, it's how he did it. Did he go through the proper pathways? Was his tone proper? Did the words that he used, was that in the heart? I might would have gone about it a different way. And then there's this other problem right here, concern, because the point is not to get better. The point is to condemn David and to demonize his authority. And so criticisms like that should not be processed as though they are genuine good faith criticisms. They're not genuine good faith criticisms. They are ploys. They're ploys. And you know what you do with ploys, right? And agendas and secret character assassination attempts. You don't follow up, right? You mark that person after you've rebuked them twice. You mark that person and then you avoid them. All right, so let's consider the flip side. What is it that Absalom is attempting to do to David? All right, so we've seen his techniques, but how does David look in all of this to the people? How does David look to all the people? They don't really know David personally, but how does he look to them? What's the optics? Disconnected, weak maybe, yeah? Yeah, indifferent, uncaring probably, uncaring, right? David looks a certain way, and you see that is the actual point. That is the point of all of this. He's not doing it to serve the people. He's doing it for his own promotion, but in order for him to be promoted, David must be demoted, as Pastor Scott was saying earlier. And the way this is being done is not by a physical assault or a full-on public assault. The way he is positioning himself for promotion is to deconstruct David's influence and reputation. You see what he's doing? He has got a situation where he has got David looking as though he doesn't care, right? He's not able to deal with the problems. He doesn't want to deal with the problems. And the reason for all of this is Absalom is attempting to assassinate his character. To assassinate his character. Not a full-on assault. He knows he would lose, right? In battle, you don't go and fight a battle that you know you're going to lose, right? You don't just fire randomly. You make sure you have the high ground and you have the ammo, and then you don't fire until you see the whites of their eyes, right? So Absalom knows he can't usurp the throne with a full-on public confrontation. He knows that wouldn't work. The people wouldn't stand for an open revolution, and Absalom doesn't have a just cause, right? He is living in sin. So he has to go about it in a subtle way, guerrilla warfare, like, behind trees and sniping from a distance, surprise attacks. And the way that emotional terrorists and people possessed with the Absalom spirit go about this is they use character assassination. Character assassination. And this is something that has been alive and well since the third or fourth day of creation. When the devil, what was the first thing he did with Satan? Character assassination. Not a full-on rebellion, not a full-on revolution. If the devil would have said to Eve, hey, look, I'm trying to overthrow God and run this place. I'm better than him. Eve would have been like, hey, no, we're not doing that. That's too far. But the gullibility and the naivete, which is what this class is intended to do to help us not be that way, because it's not a Christian virtue. The gullibility and the naivete led her to start hearing the criticisms, the concerns and the criticisms, which were really just attempts at assassinating God's character. And once his character had been deconstructed, then the devil made his move. See how that works? And you can think about this is so prevalent in the church. The church is, disintegrating in the West so badly, and one of the signs of the disintegration is the constant character assassinations of Christians and especially Christian leaders. It's very, very much of a problem, and I couldn't even begin. We wouldn't have enough time to share with you the lies that have been told just about me. And I only know about 35 people, really. But, the lies that are spread all over this town about me are laughable. They're laughable. And Jesus says to, throw a party and jump for joy. Go have fun with your friends when you hear these sorts of things. So whatever. But it is a prevalent and wicked sin in the church, character assassination. I mean, John Calvin, have you ever heard of a theologian more criticized and condemned than John Calvin? I mean, is there anyone more condemned than him? Yeah. Doug Wilson? No, I don't think he's risen to Calvin's level. He hadn't burned anyone at the stake, supposedly. Huh? Martin Luther? Yeah. John Calvin was one of the greatest theologians, a godly Christian man who led a church in Geneva that was the refuge for thousands of persecuted Christians. They came from all over Europe, and they were given refuge. He wrote books that laid the foundation for the West. And yet, 9 out of 10 Christians in this town would condemn him and condemn anyone who says his name. How can it be so upside down? Is everyone satanic accusers? No, most of them are dupes. Most of them are gullible Eves that have heard people's accusations and condemnations of a great man, godly man, right? Most people, I can remember a meeting that I had once. The lady screamed at me from the back, "Are you a Clavelinist?" And I could tell that was a negative question. Like, she had already insinuated that if I say yes, the stones should immediately fly forward, right? And I said, "I'm not. You would have to explain to me what you meant." And in my mind, I thought, I do not play the clavinova. But I didn't say that, though. I didn't say that. I was trying to give the benefit of the doubt, and honestly, I probably shouldn't. It's like, it was a total, his character was assassinated, and I could sense the question, my character is about to be assassinated. As soon as I say, I love John Calvin, and when I see him in heaven, I'm going to say thank you to him. And if you want to bash him, you should repent. You should repent. And especially if you've never even read one book by him. All right? Martin Luther, the same thing. You bring up Martin Luther's name, and people are like, he's a racist. He's an anti-Semite. He hates Jews. That is not true. People don't know the actual context of the situation. They don't know what was going on in history. 99% of people have never read a book by Martin Luther. And it's not that they're satanic and that they're Absalom and they're trying to overthrow people necessarily. It's that they're the gullible people who have just heard negative campaigns and slights and condemnations. The same thing is true. Someone brought up Doug Wilson. He is so maligned and his character is assassinated by people who live 2,000 miles away from him, have never spoken to him or seen him in person, have never read any of his books, but they just know, oh, he's a misogynist, he's a racist. Oh, and did you know there's a pastor in this town that I think he read a couple of his books once. He's bad too. He's bad too. Yeah. And I listen, character assassination is a sin. It is a sin of revolution. It is the Absalom spirit. And look, if everyone else wants to be guilty of that, hopefully we won't be guilty of that. And hopefully we won't be gullible dupes for that, right? Of course, we're not sycophants for Calvin or Luther or Doug Wilson. We're not sycophants. But Christians shouldn't be haters, right? Christians shouldn't be haters. We should judge people by their fruits, not the imagined concerns that we think might emerge some point in the future. All right? That's not how to judge as a Christian. You judge fruits, not the imagined fruits that someone thinks might appear some point in the future. That's another form of judgmentalism. That's judgmentalism. Reputation is a valuable thing. And so we are called to protect our brothers and sisters' reputations. Amen? We're called to avoid slanderers. And character assassins in particular, we are to mark them and avoid them after 2 warnings, Paul says. Beware the blunt instrument of vague concerns. Y'all know what a blunt instrument is? You know, Christians should stab each other, not club each other. It's very important. If you want to rebuke a brother in the Lord or a sister in the Lord, you should have a specific pointed point with a Bible verse or an actually defined words that you say to them. You understand what I mean? Not a bludgeon giant rubber bat that you just, push them into the ground with, right? We should not judge one another, and we certainly should not assassinate the characters of other Christians like Absalom is doing with bludgeoning of vague, I'm concerned. You see what that means? If I am talking to Miss Paula and I notice something that I think is a little troubling to me and it makes me feel a certain way, like there's certain things I like. I like the picnic tables to be straight. And if I notice they're a little off, that's going to cause me a little bit of systemic anxiety. I'm like, what's going on around here? And I say to Miss Paula, I have some concerns about what's going on around here. Now, what's she gonna do? Oh, well, that seems really bad coming from me, right? Well, she didn't have concerns when she woke up this morning, but now she has concerns. She's like, whoa, it's probably the way that so-and-so has been talking lately. She doesn't, I know it's just concerns. And whatever is in her mind, she can now file that all together in the same compartment. And I'm just like, you know what? I just hope I'm going to be able to keep coming here and working here. But if we don't deal with these things, yeah. Well, what do you mean, Pastor Brandon? Well, there's just, there's some stuff like the table, well, you've seen the tables lately. They're a little off. And right? You can see how I am with a vague concern. I am diminishing and bludgeoning. And the goal is very often to take away the influence from the person who decided to turn those tables crooked. I want to take the influence from that person with my vague concerns so that the tables can be back straight again. This is, if you want to read what I'm reading in preparing for all these things, read the book. It's called Character Assassination. It is a fantastic book. It's written by an African missionary. And he tells the story of how Christians in the African church played these games for so long and literally got people killed, got people imprisoned, and got people and their families killed through that sort of behavior. It's a very wise book, and it really can help you if you want to read it. Jesus said to not judge people, not to make up your mind about people, not to condemn people by vague concerns. It's not fair. It's not fair. But to judge them by their fruit. That's right. So if you want to actually help a brother out, say the thing. Say what it is. Like say the charge. And then give the examples of it maybe. And then allow that person the dignity to agree or disagree. And if they disagree and you feel like, no, this is an issue that needs to be dealt with, then get a mediator. And don't share vague concerns and have emotional tantrums and make threats that you're going to leave the church and vague things like that. Instead, get a Bible verses out and make a rational argument with Bible verses so you can have a discussion like an adult Christian so that you can actually help one another. You see what I mean? All right. Look for leaders, by the way. This is another application of our text. Look for leaders that merit honor and position. Avoid the wannabe leaders who profit by the diminishing of others. If there is someone who wants to be a leader and their approach at gaining leadership is the diminishing of other leaders, that is the Absalom spirit, and it has to be rejected. What you want, you see, like we were saying earlier in the class, the Absalom spirit thinks there's only so many pieces of the pie. They think for them to be able to use their gifts or exercise authority, other people's has to be diminished. But that's not how it works in God's kingdom. God's kingdom is ever infinitely expanding. Amen? There's plenty of slots. And so, but avoid people that are engaged in promotion by means of demotion. All right, one last point before we're done. Let's look at verse 5. I think this is the biggest lesson. And whenever a man came near to pay homage to him, he would put out his hand and take hold of him and kiss him. You know, he's very approachable. He's a people person. People love him. You know, he gives the overt signs of love and affection. Thus Absalom did to all of Israel who came to the king for judgment. They're coming to the king for judgment. He's schmoozing them and flattering them. And look what the technique is. So Absalom stole the hearts of the men of Israel. Right? Isn't it interesting that it says he stole hearts? He stole a heart. If you can steal a heart, what does that mean? That implies what? I'm sorry? That someone else rightfully owned the heart. That's exactly right. And why does David rightfully own the hearts of the people? Because he's appointed by God. And God had gifted David. David didn't have the hearts of the people before Goliath. Right? But God gifted David the hearts of the people when he fought Goliath. And David wasn't perfect. David didn't merit these things, but God made him the king. And so your heart belongs to your king, right? Your wives, your heart belongs to your husband. Husbands, your heart belongs to your wife. If you're in a covenantal organization, a covenantal community, your heart is owned by the others in that covenantal community. What does Paul say? That we owe no one any money, right? Meaning pay your debts, but owe them love. He says, and it's in 2 Corinthians, no, it's in Romans 13:8, owe no one anything except to love each other. What does that mean? It means you owe love to other people in your church. They have your heart. And beware of anyone who is, and you got to be wise to this, like Eve wasn't. Beware of people who are putting a wedge with vague concerns, with unfair judgments, jumping to conclusions, suspicions, bitterness, anything. When they use those things to put a wedge between your heart and those people that own your heart, beware of that person. That is the Absalom spirit, alive and well in the church. Alive and well. Look at what Paul says in 2 Corinthians 6, verse 11. This was a major problem in Paul's day. Half of Paul's letters are Paul basically saying, what did I do wrong? Like, you know, why are you mad at me for preaching the good news to you? Like, what's going on here? And it's because he has Absaloms running a game on him when he's out of town. All right? Look at 2 Corinthians 6:11. We have spoken freely to you, Corinthians, our hearts wide open. You are not restricted by us, but you are restricted in your own affections. So you see what he's saying? In return, I speak as to children. Widen your hearts also. He's trying to appeal to them. Hey, your hearts are mine and my heart is yours. And now all of a sudden, and it's because the super apostles had been coming in and driving a wedge between the churches and Paul for obvious reasons. Beware of wedgers, we can call that. And beware of any effects of the wedge in your own heart. So let me just real quick, a few reminders. Remember the 2 to 3 witness rule. Right? What's the 2 or 3 witness rule? It doesn't say don't accuse someone without 2 or 3 witnesses. It says don't receive an accusation without 2 or 3 witnesses. Honestly, the Absalom spirit goes around making accusations without other witnesses. That's what the Absalom spirit does. And we do that, and we do that all the time. Don't do that. Don't do that to one another. Don't do that to people, right? If there aren't 2 to 3 witnesses, if you're not ready to take this all the way, right? If you just want to do an offhand comment like that and put a wedge between someone else and someone else's heart, don't do that. Let's not do that, right? Remember the 2 to 3 rule? Don't nurse any bitterness. If someone has been able to plant bitterness inside your heart, or if you're nursing some bitterness, the devil, I'm telling you, the devil is going to grab hold of that, and he's going to pull you right out of this church. I've seen it so many times. I'm speaking very frankly with you. But if that bitterness grows, he's going to snatch you up by your back and walk you out of here like a suitcase, right? You sense the bitterness, You need to be like, okay, I know nothing now. I know nothing now. I am bitter. I'm about to be sifted like wheat. All right? Please, everybody else help me. I know nothing now. I know nothing now. I'm bitter. You got to make sure that that is dealt with. And don't forget the one side of the story principle. Every story actually has about 32 million sides to it. What does Proverbs say? It says that a wise man waits till he hears the other sides of the story before he makes up his mind. But you know who's even wiser than that wise man? The wise man who says, who made me judge? Who made me judge in Israel? Why are you telling me this? What ploy are you running on me to bring that to me? I'm not Absalom sitting at the gate ready to capitalize on everyone's hurts. That's not what I'm doing. Let's bring that to the right people. That takes courage though, doesn't it? Man. And don't let vague concerns or ambiguous accusations get under your skin. All right? Don't let that get under your skin. You know, shake it off, right? Shake it off. And also, when your friends do that to each other and to you, don't freak out over that either. All right? Your friends are, and in the church, to the leadership, are going to sin against each other. You're going to say something like, oh, I wish this or that, or, you know, what are they thinking? That's going to happen. And the other person in the conversation, you don't blow it up. Don't be like, okay, I'm calling Pastor Brandon. We got an Absalom on our hands, right? Hold on, okay? Like, we all have the Absalom spirit in our heart. But what you can say is like, you can say enough to gently be like, let's not keep going down that path. You know what I mean? And you know, be joyful about it. You know, the first rebuke can be calm and joyful and happy, right? But if they keep doing it for their own good, you got to point out, hey, I think you got a handle on your back. We got to deal with this, right? All right, and don't miss the difference between constructive criticism and convenient criticism. Right? It's two different things. That's what Absalom was doing. Absalom was engaged in convenient criticisms because he was trying to demean David's authority. Right? And then finally, last but not least, remember that the standard with which you judge, you will be judged. The standard with which you judge, that's the one that will be used against you. So that means you want to take it easy, right? Be merciful. Be merciful. Awesome. All right, y'all have a great Lord's Day.